And batting cleanup here is my good friend Sam Ricketts from Evergreen Action.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you all for being here today. I'll be very brief. Good afternoon. I am grateful, I am confident, and I am eager. I'm grateful today for the leadership of Senator Martin Heinrich and his fellow senators for their leadership on this Electrifying America's Future resolution. I'm grateful to my colleagues in advocacy for fighting for and working their work to make this vision a reality here in Congress. For as long as I've known him, for over a decade, Senator Heinrich has been a stalwart champion who fights every day diligently for New Mexicans, for working people, for climate solutions, and for building a just and thriving clean energy economy. And I'm grateful for this vision that these senators, 15 of them today, have brought forward to the Congress for Electrifying America's Future. I'm confident as well in this package. This is a vision, a bold vision for how we actually confront the climate crisis, put millions of people to work, building a more just and thriving clean energy economy. How we get that 30% of gas use out of our buildings as across the country. How we put people to work in literally every community, retrofitting and upgrading buildings, installing electric efficient appliances, installing DG solar, installing electric vehicle charging stations. This is a jobs plan. This is a jobs plan that's also going to ensure it saves our planet. And if ever there's been a question in the past about do we have the technology, do we have the policy, those questions have long been answered. These are things we can do now. These are things we can start installing today that will save people money, will cut pollution, will create jobs. And then lastly, I'm eager. I'm eager to see our champion senators here put this vision of work at play in Congress now, as Congress gears up to respond to the President's American Jobs Plan with its own investment strategy for building this just and thriving clean energy economy. Behind us, this building is going to decide here what happens and how Congress can respond to the interwoven crises facing this country, the economic challenge we've been dealing with because of the COVID pandemic, the climate crisis, the crisis of institutional racism, even a democratic crisis. We have an opportunity now to reinvest in a just and thriving American clean energy economy run on clean electricity. And lastly, I'll just offer the immortal words of Marcia Griffiths, who in 1983 in her song said about the clean energy, prophetically about the clean energy future, ladies and gentlemen, it's electric.
And with that, we'll open things up for questions. Shoot.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Sam mentioned it a little bit, but I'm wondering, how much of this you see fitting into the current debate on infrastructure, and what a sort of rough, number for the kind of investment in these ideas that you're looking for is.
I think what we're trying to do right here is create the narrative. That's why this is a resolution about how this must be informing our decisions on infrastructure. And then as we move forward, we're going to be working with all of these organizations and labor and many other groups to put the individual Lego blocks into the bigger picture, right? And make sure that not only the investments are there, but also investments in things like workforce to make sure that people know how to do these things, working with industry to make sure, I'll give you an anecdote, like most people, when they replace their water heater, it's an emergency. So if you don't have the heat pump, air source heat pump water heater on the back of the truck, it's not going in the house. You want hot water tomorrow, and if your in-laws are over, you want it now. So we need to figure out all of these friction points and use the jobs and infrastructure package to really be able to solve these friction points, because like you heard before, all of the technology is already here. It's about the training, it's about the financing, it's about each and every one of those little friction points that keeps us from doing what's already available.
How do you think you ensure, these jobs are the kind of union, good-paying jobs you're talking about? Obviously, this isn't just about wind and solar, of course, but wind and solar is unionized at a lower rate than oil and gas.
Yeah, and I think, one, we need to do a better job in those projects. However, I've really had an enormous amount of luck working with IBEW as just one example on these transmission projects, on making sure that we have not only union, but in places where that prevailing wage, that it applies to these policies. And we're going to bake that in to not only this resolution, but to individual policies moving forward. And I think it's really important to realize that so many of these jobs are the kind of jobs that are already being trained for by the trade unions. I mean, when you think about a huge portion of this solution is about plumbing in new water heaters that also usually require a new 220 volt service and a new breaker in the service panel. Like, that is bread and butter, plumbers and pipe fitters, IBEW electricians kind of work. And we need to be responsive to that because we want these jobs to be union and prevailing wage.
Are there parts of your vision, your roadmap, that you think will be an easier sell for Republicans? And are there aspects that might be a little bit tougher? I know there's been a lot of debate over, for example, electric vehicle provisions in the infrastructure package.
Yeah, so I think the advantage of many of these things is that they haven't been subject to the culture war, but it doesn't mean that won't be the case a year from now. So right now, I think people intuitively get, if you can swap out an appliance and save money, if you have the financing structure in place to do that, that's just a no-brainer, and it's something that any Republican who's a CPA is going to get right away. I think the bigger challenge is some of these things that have become lightning rods, more to do with people's talk radio shows and cable news shows than the actual sort of performance of the underlying technology on the ground.
What would you characterize as a lightning rod?
Well, I think, electric vehicles, despite the fact that they have lower cost of ownership, despite the fact that they're a lot more fun to drive, speaking personally, I've got both, they have become just another weapon in the culture wars. That said, they're a giant opportunity for us to build cars here in America that we can export to the rest of the world. And I for one am very much looking forward to Ford rolling out their electric F-150 here this week. That's the kind of investment in the future of America that we should be making.
What are the deadlines that you're operating under here? By what point do reconciliation instructions have to go to the committees for you to meet your whatever deadline you're operating under?
So, not speaking for committee chairs, since I'm not the chair of the relevant committees here, but I personally think we need to do something on jobs and infrastructure before we leave for August break. Any question?
The general feeling, again, I'm not speaking for committee chairs either, is that we've reached a critical mass. Sooner rather than later, we need to seize this moment. And I might just add on lightning rods, every one of these ideas on its merits makes eminent common sense, and our colleagues are going to hear about it when they go home over this break in the next couple of weeks. I think the American people are ready for it, and I don't think there's any part of this agenda which on its merits should be a lightning rod in the sense of attracting opposition.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Being here today.
Great job.
You know what's so nice?